They called him a nobody. Just another scruffy old man dragging in off the street, no ID, no insurance, no right to care. Administrator Green saw a problem, but Nurse Carter saw a man in pain. She broke the rules. They thought she'd be fired. What they didn't know, that man wore a Medal of Honor, and the Marines were watching. Stick around, because when the truth marches in, the entire hospital will never be the same. Justice has boots now. Drop your location and the time you're watching in the comments below. We appreciate every subscriber who joins our community. Eleanor Green's manicured fingers tightened around her tablet, its screen reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital's pristine corridors. 20 years of maintaining ironclad control over every procedure, every protocol. And now this defiant nurse dared to challenge her authority. The security feed showed Nurse Carter hustling that shabby veteran into treatment room 3, without so much as a single completed form. Unacceptable. Eleanor Green muttered, her heels striking the polished floor like a judge's gavel. Each step amplified her rage as she watched more violations unfold on her tablet. No insurance verification, no triage documentation, pure chaos infiltrating her perfectly ordered domain. The brass nameplate on her crisp white blazer caught the light. Eleanor Green, Hospital Administrator, a symbol of her unquestioned authority for 2 decades. She polished it with her thumb, a habit born of pride, as she stormed toward the emergency department. Through the security cameras, she observed 6 black government SUVs screech into the parking lot. Her heart skipped a beat, but she straightened her spine. Even Marine Corps officers would have to respect proper procedures. Nurse Carter. Eleanor Green's voice cracked through the ER like a whip. Step away from that patient immediately. She thrust herself between the nurse and the veteran, her tablet raised like a shield. This man hasn't been properly admitted. He cannot receive treatment without... Ma'am. A deep voice cut through her tirade. A Marine Corps officer stepped forward, his insignia gleaming. That's Colonel Samuel Brooks you're denying care to, Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. Eleanor Green felt the first tremor of doubt shake her foundation. The veteran's eyes met hers with quiet dignity, and something in their depths made her fingers clench around her nameplate. I don't care if he's the president himself, she declared, but her voice wavered slightly. Protocols exist for a reason. Without proper documentation, phones appeared from every corner of the ER recording her stance. A young intern whispered, "Is she really blocking a war hero?" The hashtag #ForBotcherHospitalHero would start trending within minutes, though Eleanor Green didn't know it yet. Nurse Carter's voice cut through the tension. With all due respect, Administrator Green, I took an oath to save lives. First, fill out paperwork second. That defiant statement, captured on dozens of phones, would soon explode across social media. Eleanor Green's world of perfect order began to crack as she watched her staff's eyes turn from fear to something else. Disappointment, judgment, rebellion. Standing there surrounded by phones and disapproving faces, Eleanor Green clutched her nameplate until her knuckles went white. 20 years of control balanced on a knife's edge. Would her authority survive this challenge to everything she believed in? Type protocol if you've ever had to choose between rules and doing what's right. In her office later, Eleanor Green stared at her reflection in the window, remembering her first day as administrator. Protocols protect us, her mentor had said. Never let chaos in. But as she polished her nameplate with trembling fingers, she couldn't shake the image of Colonel Brooks's eyes. For the first time in 20 years, she wondered, had she confused control with care? The Marine Corps officer's presence in her hospital wouldn't just challenge her authority, it would unravel everything she'd built. But Eleanor Green didn't know that yet. She only knew that for the first time, her perfectly ordered world felt suffocating. The security feeds continued to record everything, silent witnesses to the beginning of her downfall. Outside her office, Dr. Hospital Hero was already gaining momentum, carried by the winds of social media justice. Eleanor Green's empire of protocols was about to face its greatest test and the world would be watching. Eleanor Green's fingers drummed against her mahogany desk, each tap echoing the rhythmic beeping of distant heart monitors. 27 years of climbing the hospital hierarchy had taught her that rules were the backbone of medical excellence. Now, staring at the personnel file splayed before her, that certainty wavered like a failing EKG line. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Rachel Carter's employee photo. Eleanor Green hadn't always been an administrator. She remembered the exhaustion of 12-hour shifts, the emotional toll of losing patients. But she'd learned to distance herself to see the bigger picture. That's what separated leaders from followers. "Ms. Green!" Her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board's requesting the incident report from this morning." Eleanor Green's hand instinctively reached for her administration manual, its leather binding worn from years of referencing protocol violations. The morning's chaos played through her mind. Carter's defiant stance, the Marine Corps officer's arrival, the whispers spreading through the halls like a contagion. A notification pinged on her computer. Another article about the incident already gaining traction. Hospital denies vet, trending in 3 states. Eleanor Green's stomach clenched as she scrolled through comments questioning her leadership, her humanity. They didn't understand the complexities, the delicate balance between compassion and compliance. "Have you seen what they're saying about us online?" Dr. Matthews stood in her doorway, tablet in hand. "This could damage our reputation beyond repair." Eleanor Green's eyes fixed on her certificates lining the wall, each one a stepping stone in her ascent from floor nurse to administrator. "Close the door, James." She pulled up the hospital's incident database, her password muscle memory after countless investigations. "I need to show you something." The screen filled with previous complaints, denied treatments, delayed care, all justified by protocol. But seeing them, compiled patterns emerged that made Eleanor Green's chest tighten. Each case bore her signature, her stamp of approval, protecting the institution's interests above individual needs. "I was taught that structure prevents chaos." She murmured more to herself than Dr. Matthews. Her mentor's words from 15 years ago echoed, "Emotions make mistakes, protocols make profits." She'd believed it then, implemented systems that prioritized efficiency over empathy. The world's best administrator mug mocked her from its corner perch. Eleanor Green remembered receiving it during her first year as administrator, back when decisions seemed clearer. Now, research papers on her desk highlighted the human cost of rigid healthcare systems, studies showing how strict protocols often led to decreased patient satisfaction and worse outcomes. Her phone buzzed. Another news outlet requesting comment. The timestamp showed only 4 hours since Carter's act of defiance, but it felt like days. Eleanor Green's carefully constructed world was unraveling faster than a loose surgical suture. "Do you remember why you became a nurse?" Dr. Matthews asked, softly breaking the tension. The question hit Eleanor Green like a crash cart to the chest. Images flooded back her father in a hospital bed, ignored by overworked staff, following protocols instead of instincts. She'd promised to be different, to change the system from within. When had she become what she'd once fought against? Have you ever watched your principles crumble? Type protocol if you've seen rules hurt more than help. Eleanor Green's hand shook as she reached for her administrator's pin, the symbol of her authority suddenly heavy as lead. The afternoon sun caught its polished surface, reflecting 2 decades of decisions that looked very different in hindsight. Research had shown that healthcare systems prioritizing human judgment alongside protocols had better outcomes. Eleanor Green had dismissed such studies as idealistic, impractical. Now facing Carter's personnel file, a nurse whose father died waiting for treatment while paperwork was processed, the data felt personal, damning. The viral video of Colonel Brooks's arrival played silently on her screen, already at hundreds of thousands of views. Eleanor Green watched herself in the footage, saw the moment her authority masked her humanity. The comments below called for her resignation for systemic change. Standing at her office window, Eleanor Green observed the hospital she'd helped build, where every floor operated like clockwork according to her guidelines. But efficiency had come at a cost she was only now beginning to calculate, and the bill was coming due. Hospital Administrator Eleanor Green stares at the notification lighting up her phone, another 100,000 views on the viral video. Her hands, usually steady from decades of hospital management, tremble as she picks up her brass nameplate, the weight of authority now a burden. The polished surface reflects her drawn face, dark circles forming under eyes that haven't slept since Nurse Carter's defiance went public. Through the expansive windows of her corner office, Eleanor watches the growing crowd of veterans gathering in the parking lot. Their disciplined rows remind her of an advancing army, and each "Carter, Carter" chant sends a shiver down her spine. The military precision of their protest makes her administrative power feel suddenly hollow. "Miss Green." Her assistant's voice crackles through the intercom. "CNN is on line 1. They're asking about Colonel Brooks' treatment denial and Nurse Carter's suspension." Eleanor Green's finger hovers over the intercom button before pulling back. She's declined 17 media requests in the last hour alone. The Twitter hashtag #NurseHero has exploded to over 500,000 mentions, each one feeling like another nail in her professional coffin. Her phone buzzes again. This time it's the hospital board requesting an emergency meeting at dawn. The security footage plays on her computer monitor. Eleanor Green, watching herself from hours earlier, pacing the sterile hallways at midnight fluorescent lights, casting her shadow like a restless ghost. She pauses the footage, studying her own face. When did she start looking so afraid? The brass nameplate catches the light again. Eleanor remembers polishing it just yesterday morning, proud of its gleam, certain of her position. Now it feels like evidence of her hubris. She opens her desk drawer to put it away, but her hands won't release it. Instead, she clutches it tighter, as if it might shield her from what's coming. "Have you seen what they're saying about you online?" The voice belongs to Dr. Marcus, her longtime ally on the board. He stands in her doorway, tablet in hand, no longer meeting her eyes. "The Marine Corps Veterans Association is calling for a full investigation into our treatment protocols." Eleanor Green's throat tightens. "They don't understand hospital policy." "Policy!" Dr. Marcus interrupts, his voice sharp. "A decorated colonel was denied urgent care while your staff watched. The video shows you threatening to fire anyone who helped him. Policy isn't going to save you from this, Eleanor." The chants outside grow louder. Eleanor approaches the window, the nameplate cold in her grip. A news van has joined the veterans, its satellite dish extending skyward like an accusing finger. Her phone buzzes with another notification. Hospital shame is now trending alongside Nurse Hero. "The board wants your preliminary resignation letter by morning," Dr. Marcus says quietly, "before this gets worse." Eleanor Green's reflection in the window looks small, diminished. The brass nameplate slips from her fingers, clattering on the desk. In the parking lot below, more veterans arrive, their combat boots marking time like a countdown to her inevitable fall. Type karma if you've ever seen pride lead to a devastating fall. The security cameras continue their silent vigil as Eleanor Green sinks into her chair, the weight of consequences finally settling on her shoulders. Tomorrow, her name will be in headlines across the nation, but not for any achievement she'd ever wanted to claim. The night stretches ahead, full of shadows and regret, while outside the chants continue. "Carter, Carter, Carter." Eleanor Green grips her polished brass nameplate, the morning light catching its gleaming surface as Marine officers file into her pristine hospital office. Her fingers trace the engraved letters of her title, Hospital Administrator, a position she's wielded like armor until this moment. Through the windows, she sees more protesters joining the growing crowd, their signs demanding justice for Colonel Brooks, fluttering like accusations in the wind. Administrator Green, the lead Marine officer's voice, cuts through her thoughts. Colonel Brooks's treatment record requires immediate review. Eleanor Green feels her carefully constructed world trembling. The security feeds on her monitor show nurses gathering in the break room, their eyes fixed on Rachel Carter as she speaks, her words inaudible, but their impact visible in the determined faces of her colleagues. A text notification buzzes. The hospital board meeting has been moved up. The hashtag #TwarterGreengate trends alongside footage of Colonel Brooks's denied treatment. Eleanor Green's hands shake as she opens her email, finding hundreds of messages from veteran organizations. The steady thump of protest chants echoes through her office walls. Care before cost, care before cost. Your policy of prioritizing insurance verification over emergency care. The Marine officer continues his medals, catching the light, directly contradicted military medical protocols. Eleanor Green's throat tightens as she realizes the system she's championed has failed a decorated war hero. The nameplate feels heavier in her hands. Through her office blinds, she spots news vans arriving. CNN's headline scrolls across her phone. Hospital administrator under fire, decorated colonel denied critical care. Rachel Carter's voice carries from the hallway, speaking to reporters. We took an oath to help people, not profits. Eleanor Green's finger hovers over the hospital policy manual on her tablet, the same rules she's enforced without question for 15 years. The Marines stand at attention, waiting. Outside, the protesters' chants grow louder. Green must go, Green must go. Her office phone rings. The hospital board chairman. Eleanor, this situation is untenable. The publicity. She barely hears him as she watches Rachel Carter on the security feed, now surrounded by supportive staff members. The nurse's dedication to patient care, once a source of irritation, now feels like a mirror reflecting everything Eleanor Green has forgotten about medicine. I understand, sir. She interrupts, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. I'll handle this immediately. She ends the call and stands smoothing her blazer. The nameplate sits cold and heavy in her palm as she faces the Marines. Gentlemen, Eleanor Green announces each word costing her years of pride. I'm implementing immediate policy changes. She presses the intercom button, her voice echoing through the hospital halls. Effective immediately, all emergency care will be administered without prior insurance verification. The Marines exchange glances as she continues, and I'm tendering my resignation. The words hang in the air as she places her nameplate face down on the desk. Through the window, she sees Rachel Carter among the protesters, their signs now illuminated by news cameras. Eleanor Green opens her office door, the sound of protests flooding in. She walks toward the press, gathering each step, echoing with the weight of her decision. The system she defended wasn't just imperfect. It was wrong, and now facing the cameras, she would admit it. Vorteil. Type integrity. If you believe in doing what's right, even when it costs everything, appears as she approaches the microphones, her perfectly maintained facade finally cracking under the weight of truth. Eleanor Green stares at her office door, the morning light catching the brass nameplate she's polished religiously for 15 years. The sterile hospital air feels different today, not oppressive with power, but alive with possibility. Her hands, once steady with authority, tremble slightly as she reaches for the nameplate. You were my shield, she whispers, fingers tracing the engraved letters. The weight of it reminds her of every decision she'd made behind that door, including the one that nearly destroyed everything she'd built. Colonel Brooks's face flashes in her mind, not as the decorated Marine she'd later discovered, but as the vulnerable veteran Rachel Carter had fought to save. The ceremony downstairs pulses through the building's bones. Eleanor's chest tightens as she hears Rachel Carter's voice carrying through the PA system, addressing the assembled staff. We're implementing new protocols for veteran care thanks to Administrator Green's leadership in reform. Leadership. The word no longer tastes of control and rigid policy. It tastes of humility, of growth. Eleanor clutches the new nameplate in her hands. Eleanor Green, Director of Compassionate Care Initiatives. The title she'd fought against now feels like salvation. The viral hashtag #JoshaGreenLearns still trends, but not with the venom she'd feared. Sometimes our greatest mistakes lead to our finest moments, she'd said in yesterday's press conference, her voice breaking as she announced the hospital's new veteran care program. CNN had called it a masterclass in institutional transformation. The Marine Corps officers who'd stormed her office just days ago now stand at attention in the ceremony hall, their presence a reminder of how close she'd come to losing everything. But Colonel Brooks himself had spoken up for her, recognizing her willingness to change. A soft knock interrupts her thoughts. Administrator Green. It's Dr. Chen, her once staunchest ally in maintaining the old system. They're ready for you downstairs. Eleanor takes one last look at the old nameplate. You know, James, I spent years thinking leadership meant never backing down. I was wrong. She places the old nameplate in a box marked Hospital Archives, not hidden away in shame, but preserved as a reminder of transformation. The applause as she enters the ceremony hall thunders like a heartbeat. Rachel Carter stands at the podium, restored to her position with full honors. Their eyes meet, and Eleanor sees not the subordinate she'd tried to destroy, but the catalyst who'd helped her rediscover her purpose. Type "transform" in the comments if you believe in the power of change, the hospital's social media manager had posted. The responses had flooded in each one, a testament to the impact of their story. Eleanor takes the podium, her new nameplate gleaming in her hands. Healthcare isn't just about policies. She begins her voice carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. It's about people, about recognizing when our systems need to change and having the courage to lead that change. The installation of her new nameplate becomes more than a ceremony. It becomes a symbol. Photos of Eleanor and Rachel together placing it on the door go viral with the caption, "From adversaries to advocates. How one hospital transformed its approach to veteran care." Sometimes, Eleanor reflects watching Rachel demonstrate the new veteran care protocols to enthusiastic staff. Our greatest victory isn't in maintaining power, but in learning when to let it evolve into something better. The old brass nameplate now sits in a display case in the hospital's main hall, alongside Rachel's original incident report and Colonel Brooks' commendation letter. The plaque beneath reads, "Leadership is a journey of continuous learning." Eleanor touches her new nameplate, finally at peace with her transformation. The hospital halls echo with purpose, not power, and somewhere a veteran walks through the doors, knowing they'll be treated with the dignity they deserve. Share this story if you believe in second chances, reads the final frame of the viral video documenting their journey. Because sometimes the ultimate truth isn't about being right, it's about being brave enough to change.